Thursday, December 8th, 2022. It's actually quite warm today. The snow is melting. It hasn't been so cold. So, since the last video, we survived this much anticipated massive barrage, missile barrage announced by Vladimir Putin. The Ukrainian army managed to rig up some old drones or cruise missiles, pack them with explosive and send them on a return vector and hit a few of the bombers that were loaded up with missiles coming our way and sent Russia a message. But now, Putin is talking nuclear war again. So I think that has to be taken seriously as well. We can't just ignore that. Everything is moving along. What else? Work, we have a schedule now for electricity. So I'm going to the office only half of the day instead of all day. I can work from home half the time when we have electricity. We have like rolling blackouts. So there's not a set time every day that it rotates when we have and when we don't. So we have like a time that's green that we get for sure electricity. And we have a time that's orange that's maybe electricity. And it all goes in 4-hour blocks. And then we have a time for white, which is no electricity. So we're at about 50%. We're up around 50%, getting around, 8 to 12 hours a day, something like this, maybe more. Lately it's been good, but in the middle of, usually at night it's better, but last night we were out. So it's just all, it's predictable. I can say when they say the electricity's up, it's up, and we have it. Okay, now what I want to talk about. I was on Facebook, commenting on something Joe Lindsay. He's an American journalist with WGN Chicago. Chicago is my hometown where I grew up, by the way. And we were commenting on the Russian Orthodox Church being kicked out of Ukraine. And I think that's a good thing. But I propose that, the American Protestant Church, should fill the void. Like the Lutherans or the Methodists or the Baptists, one of these non-Catholic denominations of Christianity, ones that don't use a pope or a bishop or have opulent churches, have all that bureaucracy, and make it difficult to get between you and the Creator. And the reason why, and Joe Lindsay said, we shouldn't try to change our culture and shouldn't impose ourselves, but the thing is, we do have right to make recommendations, Joe. America is giving 90% of the weapons, 100% of the intelligence to Ukraine. And one of the things that has made America, Germany, the Netherlands, Scandinavia, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, these countries, Northern Europe, generally Northern Europe, Germanic countries, in the United States and Canada successful, is the Protestant roots, the culture's Protestant roots. See what happened now. Let's go back in history here. Okay, so Johannes Gutenberg invented a printing press in the 1500s, I believe. Maybe even 1400s. I don't have it in front of me. I'm just doing this off the cuff. But first came a printing press, which made knowledge cheap, I should say, like the internet spread knowledge. The printing press at that time was like the internet. There was like this explosion of information. Before, only monks and elite people could read and even have books. Books were really expensive because they all had to be copied by hand. Then came the printing press. So what did they do? They started printing the Bible, and everyone started reading it for themselves. And then there was this guy in Germany, Martin Luther. He was a preacher, but he had a lot of grievances with the Catholic Church, and so he started the Protestants, which later subdivided into Baptists, Methodists, Pentecostals, but they're all Protestants, because they don't have a pope. And this was kind of the root of democracy. From this movement, from the Protestant movement, was born like a Western democracy, because democracy relies on literacy and people being self-aware. So when people start reading, they start becoming self-aware and demanding more of those ruling over them and start asking questions. And that's what we want in a Western society. We don't want like this, everyone just running to an imam or to a cleric or to a pope or something and looking for answers. We want people to find the answers themselves, and leaders are supposed to be like, more like, carrying out our will. We're not carrying out their will. But yeah, Joe, yeah, so that's what we can bring to Ukraine. You know, we've already brought our intelligence, we brought our weapons. Now we can, you know, bring our culture. You know, we want Ukraine to stand alone, or stand strong and stand on their own feet. Of course, they won't be alone. They'll be in NATO and the EU, and maybe even we can get them to join the United States as a state like the way Texas did. That would be cool. You know, Texas was an independent country at war with Mexico, and then they found they were better off with us than being alone. You know, but yeah, that would be cool if Ukraine was a 51st state. But anyway, so we can recommend that, you know, the American churches fill in the void of the Russian Orthodox Church and spread the Protestant values, you know, literacy, independence, open-mindedness. You know, all of the countries that are working well, despite what you might see in the news: Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg. These countries work quite well, and much better than their southern European counterparts, where Catholicism is much more entrenched. Because this independent thinking has been going on for much longer, and now it's starting to catch on in southern Europe, you know, as people cross-pollinate. But it's okay, you know, as guests in a country, to make some recommendations, you know, based on our observations. It's probably even welcome to have an independent and outside view. And I hope you can recognize that as a journalist, you know, that, you know, I appreciate what you're doing. You're out on the front lines. You're much braver than I am, going to Kharkiv and these places and, you know, reporting what you see. But at the same time, we have to think about the future after the war, what we want Ukraine to be. We want Ukraine to be a Western, you know, self-standing, independent country, you know, that can adapt to the changing times and have a culture that brings about, you know, innovation, embraces diversity. They have a fair amount of innovation here in the IT and tech sectors. I give them that, but it needs to be stepped up. You know, if Ukraine is going to become a rich country like Germany, then it needs to be more like, you know, Germany, or more like Austria, you know, and these kind of places. You know, so how does that happen? You know, religion always underpins the governmental values and always underpins the culture. It's just a fact of life. I mean, America, most of what happened in America can be attributed to the Protestant work ethic, you know, this thing that, you know, work is your way into heaven, you know, brought in by the Puritans, you know, another Protestant sect, or the Amish, you know, and this kind of gave rise, you know, a country that rose from being just colonies to the world's greatest superpower in 300 years. It's unprecedented. It took Rome and Egypt much longer. We did it much faster because of our values. And it's something we should share with Ukraine and introduce here. You know, I know a few people working with like Protestant churches in America, but we should give them fundings to fill in that gap and, you know, show them some light, because these Orthodox and Catholic churches, it's a bit arcane. You know, they're from a time when books were expensive and printing materials weren't out there. People couldn't read, and they would take up a lot of money. If you go in those churches, there's, you know, it's very opulent. All that money is like collected from the people, and they're, you know, starving and everything. And then the churches are very decadent, and that was like Martin Luther. I'm just saying, you know, what Martin Luther had said back in the 1500s, and he thought that, you know, churches should be more simplified, and the money should be in the public, you know, for the public interest, like infrastructure and schools and libraries and things like this. And this is kind of what we want to see, you know, take root in Ukraine, is this kind of values, that, you know, the government and the church is not the most powerful thing. It's the people, you know, and it's showing now. The people are doing really good. They're fighting back, even just by staying here and being stubborn and not fleeing is part of the fight. But yeah, so that's my thoughts. Is that it's working here. I think we're going to get to a peaceful resolution soon. And then we have to figure out what to do after, how to make Ukraine like South Korea, for example. And by the way, South Korea, the Protestant church has really taken hold in South Korea. They have their own churches in the U.S. and everything, and they're Protestant based. So how do we make Ukraine, you know, like Korea? Like they have a hostile neighbor to the north, you know, it's still in a state of war, but they managed to build a prosperous economy. You know, so we got to figure out how to do this. And one thing that Korea had, though, they had a very young demographic. they sent a lot of people to America. Of course, they have like that Japanese style work ethic, and we got to bring that here. But I think Ukraine needs an immigration model as well, because it's just the demographics here are just atrocious. There's just not enough young people here. And I was in Turkey and some of these nearby countries, and they're pretty moderate. So I think we can bring people even from the U.S. I think this would be like a new frontier for many Americans to come here and start working and building the economy. To make exportable products, whether it's IT services or furniture, something we can export. But anyway, that's my thoughts for today. I'm almost home. I was, as usual, in the gym Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday mornings, and then I blog on the way home from the gym, while I'm pumping full of adrenaline. But yeah, I think we're okay as Americans to share our history and share our culture and make recommendations, so Ukraine can in 50 years be a bigger economy than Germany. That's what I would like to see. I would like to see Ukraine, be and they can do it. They can do it. So we can build BMWs here, just like they build them in South Carolina. So if BMWs and Mercedes could go to the most illiterate parts of the U.S. and build car factories and build cars of quality, like Japan, Toyota went to Tennessee. Toyota and Honda went to Tennessee, like just to some, redneck village, and they built very high quality cars there, better than in Detroit with the, American management and highly paid unionized workers. So it can be done in Ukraine too, but Ukraine has to, in the future, become more like a Western country and less like the Russian country, and get rid of this, this slippery culture of, shysting and bribery and corruption, and all of this has to be, and I think that would be good if we got more, American Protestant influences in here, and started ingraining that from a younger age, and those are the values that shaped me growing up, and have an innate sense of right and wrong, not to change prices on people or show them one price and invoice them for another. These kind of things happen here all the time. Or when you order something online, they send you something completely botched and try to tell you like light beige is actually the same as a dark brown picture you see. So this is all like deep rooted in a Russian style culture, and we have to also build Ukraine for the future at the very root, at the very core. But anyway, that's all I got today. Take care and have a good day.